Hi, everyone. Today's talk is on Stress Less, Achieve More with mindfulness expert Elizabeth Prather. I'm so excited for this call. I've been waiting for it for a while. Really, what we're going to discuss today is how can we reduce stress and find happiness by understanding and living our lives and being mindful. And before we start, quick exercise, top right-hand side, put this in gallery mode. And then for those who are in the live stream, either on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, you can just write yes or no to my answers in the comments, but we want you participating as well, okay? First question, do you easily become agitated, frustrated, or moody? Okay. For me, it's sometimes. Do you ever feel overwhelmed, like you're losing control or need to take control? Do you have difficulty relaxing and quieting your mind? Next question. Do you ever feel any of these physical symptoms? Low energy, headache, insomnia, frequent colds and infections, nervousness? Have you felt stressed during the past year? I hear like giggles. Okay. Like obvious, right? How many of you have an activity that de-stresses you and quiets your mind? Could be anything, running, walking, meditation. How many of you meditate? How many of you meditate daily? Weekly? Randomly? Okay. So it's easy to be overwhelmed and stressed in today's hectic and ever-changing world. So for shits and giggles, I Googled what are the long-term consequences of stress? What are they? And before I begin, let me emphasize that a bit of stress now and then is not something to be concerned of. It's natural. However, if it's ongoing, chronic stress, it can cause and exacerbate serious health problems like mental health problems like depression, anxiety, and personality disorder, cardiovascular disease like heart attacks and high blood pressure, obesity and eating disorders, menstrual problems, sexual dysfunction, skin and hair problems, and gastrointestinal problems. Sounds fun, right? So as I mentioned, stress is a natural part of life. But what matters the most is how do you handle it? So today we'll discuss how we can meet stress gracefully and address work and personal challenges with more ease, right? We all need that. We're going to talk about how we can focus on being present in the moment in all areas of our lives. We'll discuss mindful strategies for reducing stress, enhancing calm and focus, and cultivating more profound joy and fulfillment in this session. Then we'll try a brief mindfulness meditation practice that can help you integrate mindfulness into your life. And there's going to be plenty of time for Q&A. Before I introduce the amazing Elizabeth Prather, you're going to answer this question. For those watching on live stream, type it in the comments section, okay? What is your main difficulty in meditating or mindfulness? Put it in the comments. What's your main difficulties in meditation? So let me see in the comments. Quieting my internal voice, distraction, scrambled thoughts, concentration. I overthink the process of breathing. That sounds really familiar. Never enough time, distractions, stopping my brain from being all over the place, boredom, focus. This sounds all familiar, right? I remember when I first started the meditation practice, I was like, this is not for me. I was like, I hate this shit. And what I realized was that the people that hate it the most usually need it the most. So if you have trouble relaxing your monkey brain or whatever they call it, you probably need it the most. And it took me a while, and I'm still not that great at it, but I try to do it if possible daily. And when I do it, my entire day changes. So our special guest for today, Elizabeth Prather, has over 20 years of corporate leadership experience, including as a vice president in a healthcare management company, As a corporate executive, stress led to burnout. Sounds familiar, right? Which led to her finding meditation and a deep interest in inner wisdom practices. She incorporates meditation into her life and for many years divided her time between work and immersion in meditation training and retreats. She is passionate about bringing mindfulness into business to cultivate environments where individuals can thrive and perform at their very best. Elizabeth's Mindfulness at Work program integrates her deep mindfulness practice and business acumen to ensure sustainable results for her client. In addition, she brings expertise to organizations looking for improved performance and well-being for their leaders and employees who are committed to improving employee retention and engagement. She mentors stressed and burnt out professionals looking for more calm, purpose, and balance in their lives. And she divides her time between work and immersion into mindfulness and meditation retreats. In 2012, she completed a 3-year silent meditation retreat in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition in the high deserts of Arizona. Since then, she has been a mindfulness consultant and a mentor, using ancient wisdom, neuroscience, and positive psychology to help stressed and burned out men and women find calm, focus, joy, and purpose through one-on-one and group programs. In addition, she offers mindfulness, leadership, resilience, and other evidence-based mindfulness programs in organizations to improve performance and well-being. Elizabeth, before I let you take the reins and let you dig in deep, I am dying to learn more about your 3-year silent meditation retreat. Were you silent for the whole 3 years? I'm a bona fide introvert, but I don't think I could do a silent meditation for a week, let alone 3 years. Before you take the reins and answer all of our questions on meditation and mindfulness, can you tell us about that experience and why it was transformative for you?
Of course. So thank you so much, Lan, for that wonderful introduction. My 3-year retreat, you don't jump into a 3-year silent meditation retreat for sure. It was something that I did after about 20 years of pretty serious practice, doing shorter retreats leading up to the longer retreat. Yes. Having said that, even within tradition, it's pretty much kind of like I'm considered like a marathon runner compared to a sprinter. So it was obviously a transformative experience. And yes, it was silent for the whole time. We would write our grocery lists. People bought our groceries. We would communicate everything by writing. There was no outside communication with family and friends other than we could get things in writing once a month. If I remember, yeah, it was just like once a month. And we were really trying to immerse ourselves into the mind. And I really learned a lot about myself and how hard I was on myself. I think one of the things I think we all can relate to is really beating ourselves up and really being really hard on ourselves. I developed a lot more self-compassion. I think for myself, I know I did. And when I say we, there were 5 of us, but we were all in individual huts. So we had separate time in the kitchen. So it was really a solo retreat, but with 5 people on the same property, shall we say, sharing that. What else that I just want to share kind of upfront? I think what's important to understand is that no matter how little we do or how much we do, it's the process of just understanding our minds, which we were not taught as children. And so all of what we can learn as we begin or continue, because I noticed that some of you are real meditation practitioners, is that we're where we're at. And I just have that kind of a personality. It's go for it. So I decided to do that. And it really led me to you, because what I have realized is that what I realized in retreat, actually, I had this aha moment that I was to bring these practices to you.
So one question before I let you run the show, because there's different people with different levels. Some people are practitioners. Other folks have never meditated a day in their life. Some people think that meditation is fluffy, or some think it's a religion, which it's not, of course. What's the difference between meditation and mindfulness? And if you can answer that, and then you can take the show after that.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know that like you said, I came from the corporate background, very highly successful corporate executive, and really successful in all of the jobs that I ever did. And understanding that meditation was something that I needed was actually, I was very skeptical, like yourself, like you had said, very skeptical actually. And so it can take time to understand why something like meditation can be helpful. Relative to mindfulness and meditation, you're really what we're doing. Mindfulness is a state of mind, and it's also a meditation practice. So we can be mindful of anything, good or bad, and we can use mindfulness meditation practice to really begin to understand our reality better, to become more aware, to be able to deal with our emotions better, to deal with our relationships better, and so on, as I'll get into in more detail. And so there are many different kinds of meditation. So mindfulness meditation is only one type of meditation. But as many contemplative traditions tell us, if you do mindfulness meditation, whether you're a beginning meditator, whether you do it a little bit or whether you do it a lot, it can take you the duration. In other words, it is such a powerful but simple practice but as you said, it's hard for us to do. It can be simple, but not easy, those distinctions. And we'll get into that. And I will share a very simple mindfulness meditation practice that even those who are just starting out could start out, because most of the meditation apps have free introduction to mindfulness meditation training. So if this is resonating, then you can absolutely, I'll give recommendations for a few apps that people can use as well. And then if Lan sees anything in the comments that she wants to interrupt me with, and we can jump into those questions, I'm happy to do that too. So I'm just start with 3 keys to a mindful life. So what I'll be doing here is giving you a short presentation, and then we will be doing a meditation together. It'll be short, and I have another really nice little meditation practice. So just be ready for that. And of course, you're welcome to join in. You don't have to, but you'll be here listening, and it's planting the seeds in your mind. The 3 keys to a mindful life, it's not just about the meditation. It's actually about understanding the rationale for why you want to practice mindfulness, and also the importance of attention. Especially most of us are working professionals, and we need to be able to manage our work life and our work-life balance, and attention is key. And I need to talk about that to help us all understand that at maybe even a deeper level. And then committing to a daily or regular mindfulness meditation or some kind of a meditation practice is the way to really integrate it into your life. One of the things that I do mostly actually is be the accountability buddy for my clients, because those of you who are longtime meditators, you know as well as I do, it's not easy to do it every day after every day, even those of us who do it and know that it's good for us. So what we need to do is just continue to work on that so that it gets to be like brushing our teeth, right? So it's like we're going to do our meditation practice in the morning. And as Lan said, if you got to try it. Meditation is not something that I can be a talking head here for 20 billion hours, but until you try it, then that's where the power comes from, right? We all know we should exercise, we know we should meditate, but until we do it. And so for those of you new to it, it's the invitation to start. And for those who are in the middle or advanced practitioners, give us a chance to do our practice today. And then most importantly is integrating. There are so many ways, once you're mindful, once you become more aware of the reality around you through strategies, techniques, and tips, quite a few of them, hopefully I'm going to share with you in as much time as I have today, but there are just so many ways to integrate this kind of thing into your life. It's not just about sitting on the cushion. As I always say to my clients, recommending that you do just 10 minutes a day of a meditation practice, that's just preparing you for the 23 plus rest of hours of your life, right? This is what meditation is for. And I will be going through debunking some of the myths of mindfulness that Lan started us on. And we're going to do that right now. So basically, it is not a religion. Mindfulness is definitely a part of all contemplative traditions. So it goes back thousands of years, but you can practice mindfulness without having any religious affiliation. Mindfulness is not stopping your thoughts. This is something that I have found a lot of people are just like, I have a monkey mind, I can't stop my thoughts, I can't meditate. So not true. And as Lan was saying, yes, if you don't think you can meditate, you might need it the most. I'd say we all, as human beings, need some kind of an inner world practice to understand our mind. It has more capacity than we can imagine. That's really what I want to share, is that we think the world is just all out there, But once we start getting into our inner world, it develops a lot more. Getting back to the debunking of mindfulness, not stopping your thoughts. Of course, as we do meditation more and more, your thoughts will begin to slow down. You'll begin to maybe have moments where you don't have any thoughts, but that doesn't mean we're stopping our thoughts. We're just being present in the moment with what comes up. And it does not deaden your mind and prevent you from striving for career or lifestyle goals. This was a big one that I had. I always thought that if I meditated, I couldn't be successful. Absolutely a myth. Absolutely, meditation can help you thrive and be even more successful. As I've seen through, I do pre and post surveys in organizations. I do 5 to 8 week programs in those organizations. And I can tell you absolutely that people just are completely thankful to have some kind of practices to help them understand their mind and improve their work effectiveness and quality of life. And then the other thing is, no, mindfulness meditation does not need to be done in a cave. It can be done in a chair, on the floor, or even lying down. So let's first go to understand this then and now, started thousands of years ago, came to the West kind of pretty much in the 50s and 60s. First came with some of the wisdom teachers, the Buddhists and Hindu teachers started coming at that time. His Holiness the Dalai Lama escaped from Tibet in 1959, bringing Tibetan Buddhism as well as his little mantra of what is it? He's called, my religion is kindness, is what he says. The Beatles brought transcendental meditation to the forefront. And then the athletes started embracing meditation to help them with their peak performance. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, the late Kobe Bryant, and coaches like Phil Jackson and also Pete Carroll of the Seattle Seahawks. You have the influencers, Ariana Huffington, Oprah, celebrities like Richard Gere, Golding Hawn. So these things help for things to become into what I'll call the mainstream. So as you probably know, you've heard about mindfulness. And as Lan was saying, there are a lot of myths out there. And there are a lot of there's not just myths, but misinformation as well. And Time Magazine has done 2 special editions on it. You see it everywhere. In addition, it's come into businesses more and more, from small to large, from finance companies to nonprofit and everything in between. All these kinds of companies are realizing that if in fact we can use these mindfulness strategies, including 10 minutes a day of mindfulness meditation, which is what most programs will offer, is that we can then begin to see some changes in our personal life, and then it comes about into our own lives. As I got from the thread in the chat, we're all saying help, right? It's, oh my God, it's overwhelming. And it can be from such a variety of reasons, from health issues with yourself or others. Maybe you have people who have passed in your family, the work environment changing, to your home life changing, remote work, you name it. It's gotten so crazy that the mind needs a place to rest in order to be able to handle the constant change around us. And one of the things that mindfulness does teach us is that change is inevitable. It's always going to be there. We're just having a lot more of it presented to us. And a lot of that has to do with the technology and our ability to see around the world what's happening, much less just in our own backyard. So we can go off on a tangent on that. I'm really into that stuff. But what I think is important in a general sense is that we really understand that we have to and can take control of our minds. And even though there's the chaos outside, we can find that still place within us to deal with whatever arises in our life, because what stuff's going to arise in our life. It's just the way it is, right? So I just really zoom into essence. Our attention is under siege. We are so distracted with the variety of things around us, and even trying to just focus in our job. I was just talking with my last client, and he can't even focus for 10 minutes on a project without having to be pulled away by his phone, right? I think we all have examples of these kinds of things in our life. And so let's define mindfulness. It'll be interesting maybe for some of you. It's quite a simple definition. And it's the faculty of sustaining voluntary attention continuously on a familiar object without forgetfulness or distraction. Now, there are a few other definitions that some of you may know about. I like this one because it's one of the traditional, very old ones, talking about focusing our attention. And that can be simply on a project that we're working on. It can be on our child. It can be on our spouse. It can be watching the sunset. What happens is that our attention is so brief without being distracted that we're not in the present moment. That's a cliche, being in the present moment, be in the here and the now. But unfortunately, it has become overused words. But if you really dive into those words, they still have deep meaning. So what we're doing here is we're really trying to develop our attentional muscle, as I call it, right? Instead of going to the gym for the body, we're going to the gym for the mind. And so to understand a little bit more of understanding, I'm a little bit of a science geek, so just a little bit on neuroscience, because this might help some of you understand how you can do it, and also just how mindfulness research has really come into the foray. Let's start with neuroscience. About 25 years ago, the neuroscientists thought that the brain couldn't change past the ages of about 20, 21 years old. But since 25 years ago, neuroplasticity, some of you may know that term, they found that actually our brains can grow and change throughout the duration of our life. Seems pretty obvious to us now, but it actually was not. So what that means is anything you think, you do, you say, you're basically enhancing grooves in your neural pathways. And if you want to learn something new, you're actually creating new neural pathways. That's really exciting in neuroscience, actually. So we can create new neural pathways and we can actually enhance others. So that's good news, right? If you wanted to learn to play a musical instrument, for example, I played piano as a kid, right? And you can learn these things over time. It's the same with mindfulness. It's actually brilliant. It's a brilliant way to understand that if we just do these kinds of practices, it's going to make it easier to do it more often, but it also is just creating changes in our brain. So what I want to tell you is that when we have our brain from an evolutionary perspective, we have three parts of the brain. We have the reptilian brain, that's the fight, flight, or freeze, right? And it's called the amygdala hijack. It's part of our survival brain. And then we also have the limbic system, which is emotions, also part of the survival brain. And then we have what's called the neocortex. And this is where it is all of our attention, self-awareness, logical thinking, and so on. So what the research has found is that when we are anxious, stressed out, whether we're being chased by a tiger or whether we're actually just late on a report, the same mechanism in the brain is being activated. Now, isn't that wild? Whoa, that's our biological reality. But what they found is when you practice mindfulness, it deactivates the survival mechanism and it activates the neocortex, and particularly what's called the prefrontal cortex, which is right behind your forehead. So great news, right? So if we can de-stress and be more mindful, be more self-aware, logical, more attentive, better decisions, and so on. So you can see how also the research can help us to understand that if we can reduce our stress, we can actually be more effective and actually happier in our life. A lot of the research has shown that we can be happier. And so committing. So we understand, and then what we do is we want to commit to a practice of some sort. And I just love this quote by Lily Tomlin: for fast acting relief, try slowing down. Some of us are moving at Autobahn speed. I know some of you will agree to that. Some of you might be moving at like 50 miles an hour. Some of you might be moving at 30 miles an hour. So I just want to present a kind of maybe a fun, silly analogy in the sense that if you have never meditated and you're running at Autobahn speed, so if anybody doesn't know what that means, you're basically going like 200 miles an hour, right? And you then decide to put on the brake, it takes a little while for the car to stop. So that's how we also have to think of our brain too, is that we can't just expect, if we're like running at 200 miles an hour, that if we start meditating, that all of a sudden everything's going to be rainbows and unicorns and all kinds of flowers and peace and happiness. No, what happens is that we do the practice, and then it doesn't necessarily have to be slowly, which is interesting. But what will happen over time is we begin to slow down. We begin to do the variety of things that we need to slow down. And the kind of, I believe, the foundational one is meditation, some kind of a mindfulness meditation practice that will help us to still our mind so that we can then get back into the lane that we need to get into. And most people find out that, like I said, I work with CEOs, C-suite executives. It's about learning how to manage and lead better. And actually you can get done more in less time, interestingly enough, when you're not always on the Autobahn going 200 miles an hour. You see what I'm saying? So the practice that I do, I just have created a very simple framework to remember it, but it's very similar to all of the mindfulness meditation of the breath practices you'll find on the apps out there. And so if you're up for it, we're just going to do like a 2-minute practice together. And my framework is body, breath, distraction. So I'll guide you through the practice, but the body is that we need to put our body into a comfortable position. Our breath is going to be our anchor of attention, of how we develop this focus. And then just know that the mind will get distracted. That's what the mind does. The mind will wander. It always will. And the practice is just bringing your attention back to the breath again and again. So let's do it together. If you want to close your eyes, you can. If not, you can just be a soft gaze, maybe towards your computer or on the floor. The most important thing is just to make sure your back is straight but not rigid. If you don't remember anything else, that's the most important thing. I expect all of us are sitting in chairs. So just make sure, if you can, that your feet are on the floor. Hands can be on your lap or on your knees, wherever's comfortable. You're just trying to put your body into a position so that you can forget about it. Actually, that's what we're trying to do. Give you a moment to bring your mind to your body. And before I start any practice, I usually do 3 intentional breaths, because like you, I'll come to my meditation maybe after. I try and do it in the morning, but if you can't do it in the morning, any time of day, and maybe you are busy. So you want to take 3 intentional breaths, which means as you're breathing in forcefully, you're noticing where there's any tension in the body. And then as you exhale, you're just relaxing it all. We'll do 2 more of those. Breathe in. Maybe note some tension in your shoulders, your neck, your hips. You can even do a little shoulder roll. And on the exhale, just relax it all. Just relax. 1 more, breathe in. And on the exhale, let it all go. Bring your attention back to your body. And now we're going to focus our attention on the breath as it comes in and out of the belly. As you breathe in, your belly will naturally come out. And when you breathe out, your belly will come in. It's how the body naturally works. And I want you to just focus on your breath at the rising and falling of the belly. As you breathe in, the belly rises, and as you breathe out, the belly falls. Let's try and do that for a few moments. Your mind might already be distracted. And what I'd like to introduce is a technique called labeling. And you can just label whatever comes up. Maybe it's a sound. Maybe it's a thought. Maybe it's your to-do list. And just say, to-do list, and bring your attention back to your breath. Just gently bringing your attention back to the breath every time it wanders. And we'll just finish up the practice, letting go of the focus of attention on the breath and just breathing naturally. And if your eyes have been closed, you can open them. Bring yourself back to the room. If anybody wants to mention in the chat, do they feel any differently? And be honest, maybe you're more agitated. Maybe you feel calm. Maybe you feel peace. Does anybody feel anything? Look at the chat here. That felt great. Calmer, calm, peaceful, calm, more relaxed. That was so enjoyable. Calmer. So just think about that, ladies and gents. In 2 minutes, you felt calmer from this practice. Love the labeling. I do too. A little too relaxed. Thank you for mentioning that, Tanya. I started to nod off. It's very normal. There's two things that happen in meditation. Either you're agitated or you're drowsy. Those are usually the two main things that come up. Drowsiness is okay. You know what you say, you just label it drowsy and bring your attention back to the breath. Don't allow yourself to go down that rabbit hole. If in fact you have to say that 5 times or more, maybe you do need a nap, right? Sometimes we need to step away and actually get that sleep. Warm and a little tired, lightheaded. I'd be a little careful. Lightheaded, it would be a kind of a trigger for me to talk a little more deeply with the client. It may be that you are changing your breath, or maybe the belly breathing is not the right thing for you. You can also focus your breath just in the chest or actually at the tip of the nostrils. I usually use those 3 instructions for clients too. Yeah, labeling is a good technique. So yeah, thanks for sharing, folks. And just what the way we learn, and a lot of what I do is about micro learning, is like what Lan calls this program, is about really understanding, oh, yeah, that just took me 2 minutes and I was able to feel a little calmer. Maybe I can do this. So really helpful for us. And I wanted to I like this. Don't fall into this trap. Can I call you back yet? I'm in the moment. Please don't use your phone. If you're going to use it as a timer, put it on airplane mode. This is one of the things I definitely work with people. It's not okay to say I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes, but then take a call. Okay. Yeah, my little soapbox there. Yeah. So integration, right? Really important. I want to give you 2 bigger, broader view mindful strategies that I hope that you can resonate with and take with you and incorporate into your life. And the first one is about letting go. Some of us think holding on makes us stronger, but sometimes it's letting go, right? So in meditation, we intentionally put aside the tendency to elevate some aspects of our experience and to reject others. Instead, what we're doing in the meditation practice we just did was to let our experience just be what it is and practice observing it moment by moment, coming back to the breath. Now, if we bring this into our daily lives, letting go is a way of letting things be, of accepting things the way they are, and letting go of the resistance to thinking, to things you cannot change. We change the things we can, but we let go and begin to accept the things that we can't. And so the great analogy is about a train. So basically, you're standing on a train platform. Imagine yourself standing on that train platform, and the train is leaving the station. So the train is your thoughts. So if you're mindful, you remain on the platform instead of jumping on board that thought train, right? So once you get on the train, usually we get caught up in one of 2 things. Either we grasp or clinging on to something we really want to stay. Like we really want that precious sunset or that precious moment with that person to stay and be there forever. And I never want it to change. And so it's obviously the suffering comes from that clinging of wanting it to be more, right? And then the bigger one is we're often pushing away that which we don't want. So if we're constantly pushing, oh, I wish this would be over. Of course you can, but when you grasp onto that thought and you don't let it go and you can't see around it, because if we begin to let go and let be, our inner awareness arises. And from that inner awareness, we then can make better decisions, find that calm, peace, joy, and so on. Whereas when we're pushing, we can't. Those 2 things can't occur at the same time. You can't have that resistance and the openness. So you can, in some ways in life, we need both. Lan was saying, stress is not all bad. But unfortunately, 90% of the people that I talk to, they're at that level of stress, which is unhappy to them. So it's really about your perception of it. And so the takeaway here is to try and let go of undesirable thoughts as they arise and see what happens, right? So just try it out. Now, if you're having trouble, then you can just watch what it feels like to hold on to that thought or that experience. What is that feeling like? Just do an inquiry. Like, oh, like I'm getting tense in my shoulder, just like thinking about that. So both ways of looking are mindful. Mindfulness is just understanding our reality, right? And being present in the moment. So that is, and also I'm just having this thought that I really want to go a little deeper with you guys. So in this context of letting go, we're also actually understanding that we are not our thoughts. You ever thought about that? We just think we're our thoughts. Actually, we normally will think we're our thoughts, but actually our thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. Some meditations, and one that I like to offer my clients too, is called mindful awareness. We're actually just noticing that thoughts come and thoughts go. And so letting go, as we begin to let go, begin to realize that realization that we are not our thoughts, that our thoughts are coming and going. And what happens, then they stop having so much power over us. So if you have some really negative triggers and things, if you can start to become aware of them and say, that really triggers me. And we're coming into the holidays now, right? So as we come into the holidays and we have those family people triggers, situational triggers, we begin to let go. And I can just offer maybe a couple of ideas here for the holidays. One is that we try and come into our difficult relationships with a little bit more compassion and patience. And so as we try and do that, compassion is not giving in to them and letting go of your power. Compassion is just understanding that they're suffering and that you want to, ultimately with compassion, we want to help people out of their suffering. As we know, with some family situations and some people in our lives, that's not as easy as it sounds. But at the same time, we trying that, bringing that kind of attitude to a difficult situation might actually change the trajectory of conversations or situations. And then, of course, when all else fails, it is okay to just leave a room, even if you have to say, I have to go to the restroom, to let your anger come down, right? Because we all know any of that irritation and anger never leads to anything good, especially for ourselves. This was what I found throughout my meditation journey, is that, of course, I have family stuff. And as I grow, just had something happen at Thanksgiving, actually, that just triggered something from my family dynamic. What I did, instead of engaging in even those thoughts, I just was aware of it and I walked out of the room, went into another room. They didn't even know anything was happening. I just went, for me, I went and did a 5-minute meditation, but you don't even have to do that. Just go outside and get some fresh air and then try and come back to the situation. You'll be amazed at how it can just change your perspective and bring some understanding to yourself. And even the next mental strategy I want to go over with you is self-compassion, because that is really important too. So anyway, there's a bit of a digression there. We can talk more about that later during Q&A if you'd like. And so what I like to just share is you're developing letting go, is it helps us to be present with every precious moment. And it allows us to release the hooks of suffering created by our thoughts. So it could be a wonderful mental strategy to take into your life. And then the last one that I want to talk about is self-compassion. And for some people, and in all honesty, I think this one is more apropos, or it seems to be with my female clients, this whole idea of self-compassion. There's a particular person, I don't know if you're aware of Dan Harris, who started the meditation app 10% Happier. And he was a news anchor who had a panic attack on air. And he then got into meditation, and he's now written 2 books. He's got an app and a really good podcast as well, by the way. He was always poo-pooing this whole idea of self-compassion or compassion in general, the practices around that. And now he's like a poster child. Oh my gosh, it's changed my life. So these kinds of things, maybe just if it seems a little not really comfortable, just maybe staying a little open here. And why is self-compassion important? First of all, we live in a society with unrealistic and sometimes damaging expectations of how we should be. Between mass media, social media, and our cultures, it can lead to, I've seen everything from low self-esteem, imposter syndrome, chronic doubt, limiting beliefs, you name it. Yet when we become compassionate with ourselves, we begin to find confidence, clarity, resilience, and so much more. It really can be a powerful practice. So we all know when we get on an airplane, what do the flight attendants tell us? Put on your oxygen mask first, and then you put it on your loved one. Why don't we do that for ourselves in our daily lives, right? So many of us don't do that. And that's where we start with self-compassion, understanding that in order for us to be the best version of ourselves, to be happy and joyful, your kids don't want to watch you be miserable all your life, right? They're much more energetically sensitive than we give them credit for, actually. So there's a lot of that kind of thing where so many of my executive clients are like, okay, I can't do it anymore. I just can tell I come home and I'm not there. And I'm not really there with them. I'm like not really there at work anymore. It's typical burnout kinds of hierarchies. But getting back to self-compassion, so it can be internally focused. We might be saying things to ourselves like, what's wrong with me? How could I let this happen? Why me? There's nothing I can do. You might have some of that. Or externally focused. I have the worst sense of direction of anyone I know. Actually, if you're that person, which I have some friends, I'm just actually, stop doing that. What's the, who's that helping? You're like habituating into your mind those neural pathways that you have a bad sense of direction. I know that I always thought that I could not fix my computer, right? And then I had a boyfriend who it was more than annoying. Let's put it that way. He would be like, no, you can do it. I'm like, no, I can't. No, I can't. Yes, you can. And now to this day, I like pat myself on the back. I'll be at Best Buy, like having them help me with something. And I'll be like, oh, I can do that. And they look at me like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. So we never know. We never know what we can. So stop saying you have the worst. You're the worst at anything. I think I'm the worst cook on the planet. Stop saying it. Actually, that's the one. I just used that at Thanksgiving. See, we do it all the time, right? Don't stop. And then I wonder how many times I made this mistake. So instead, how about saying things like, I tried my best. I'm just like everybody else. I'm just a human being. My favorite, I never signed a contract to be perfect. I learned something. Next time we do it differently. And then I'm sure you can come up with others for yourself, right? So we start like just helping ourselves with kind of these soft voices. And then if you're interested in a practice, we're just going to do it very short today, but this is just a beautiful practice that is something that when you're in that moment being triggered and you can step aside or whatever, you can put your hands on your heart or anywhere you want, anywhere on your body. It doesn't really matter, but sometimes people that can really help bring some warmth to you if that feels right. And you breathe deeply in and out, just like I did with the intentional breathing. Just bring yourself into the moment. And then you speak these words to yourself out loud or silently in a really warm and caring tone. So what I want you to just do, you can close your eyes or not, is just bring to mind a suffering, a moment where you needed some self-compassion. Could have been in a relationship with a colleague at work, maybe your spouse, maybe your child. Just maybe try to bring that to mind for a moment. And then say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. Or another way would be to say, I'm having a tough time right now. And then you say, suffering is a part of life. Or you can say, everyone feels this way sometimes. And then you say, may I be kind to myself in this moment. Or another way would be to say, may I accept myself in this moment. And lastly, may I give myself the compassion I need. Or another way to look at that is, can I give myself the same compassion that I give to a good friend? Why am I any different? And then just come back to the room if you closed your eyes. So you see my point here is you're just taking a moment, and you can use any 4 phrases. Somehow, I don't know what it is, the mind likes 4 phrases, this and that and this and that. I've never really figured that out, but it could be 1 or 2 or whatever, but have some kind of a mantra, we call it, just some kind of a phraseology that works for you so that you memorize it and then you just bring it into your life on a regular basis. And then I have some other just general tips for developing self-compassion. And that's to commit to one thing you'll do to take better care of your body and mind, right? So as Lan was saying with these micro learnings, is there something you need to do? Do you need to get a really good night's sleep tonight? Whoever did the drowsy comment, maybe you want to say, you want to set up phone-free zones. This is a big thing that I teach, really important, especially with families. Maybe you need to take more breaks during a day, even if there's just 5 minutes from here to there. Commit to being kind to that inner critic. some of that self-compassion talk or that practice that I just shared. See similarities in our human foibles and note your worthiness of receiving kindness. One of the things that I've been taught in my tradition is when I think about if I'm suffering, if I have some suffering, I have a cold or a flu or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just what I do is I spend my time saying, I send my compassion out to all those who have the same affliction that I have, may they be well. It's another way of kind of flipping self-compassion even into a compassion practice. And it actually can help develop your own compassion for yourself, because the research has become really clear that gratitude, giving, compassion, all of these practices actually are what make us happy. Very interesting. It's the giving, it's the loving, it's the love that really has us be happy. And so then when you're in the throes of self-judging, take what I call a mindful pause. Just breathing in and breathing out. It's okay. And I want to actually introduce you to my mindful pause. So last but not least, thank you so much for the time listening here, is what I call a mindful tip, and it's a mindful pause. And my suggestion is, and what I offer to all my clients, is that you do this throughout the day. When you get up in the morning, do your meditation. When you sit down at your computer, open up your computer, do a mindful pause before a difficult meeting, before or after lunch, at your breaks, after work. If you're working at home, it can be the transition between home and the living, work in the living room and home in the living room, right? So all these things. And my version is that you do 3 breaths. And the first, all of the inhales are naturally either 3 or 4 seconds. You just note what happens in your body. And if you breathe in for 3 seconds, you're going to exhale for 6. And you're going to, if you breathe in for 4, you're going to exhale for 8. And if you do that 3 times, it activates what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our automatic biological response for rest and relaxation. So that's my last kind of little big tip, my micro learning tip. And then finally, I just think this quote is apropos and inspiring. In the age of acceleration, nothing is more exhilarating than going slow. In the age of distraction, nothing is so luxurious as paying attention. And in the age of constant movement, nothing is so urgent as sitting still. It's the writer Pico Iyer, very spiritual guy as well. So yeah. All righty. So
amazing. Oh my gosh.
so much, huh? I was trying to bring it down into, I know the time frame we had, but
yeah. So let me, hopefully we'll have the question or two we can open it to, but I'm going to start with one. Where does someone start? Like, where's someone who is a beginner in their meditation practice? How do they begin?
Yeah, I would say the wonderful part about living in the time that we're in is that these meditation apps are available. So I think that if you're wanting to start, you could start with the meditation apps. The ones that I'll suggest that are very well known are Headspace, Calm, Insight, Timer as it's called, but it's Insight. And then the other one is 10% Happier, which is Dan Harris's. So Headspace, Calm, Insight, and 10% Happier. And they all have free foundation of mindfulness meditation on the breath practices so that you can do it. You don't have to pay any money. You can do it easily with their guidance. And they usually have, you can do 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You can do it in silence. So I think that, yeah, if someone gets calm and through their professional organization, that's great too. And then I think the reason why people are doing what I do, and the reason that I am working with people like yourself and people here, is because we need accountability and we need someone to teach us. I highly suggest mentors. If you can find a mentor, someone who teaches this, there's Buddhist centers in every city, in all of the big cities and around the world. And they a lot of them offer secular mindfulness programs as well. And that's what I found is that, especially with Buddhism, you can go to the centers and they actually are not expecting you to ever become Buddhist. It's not an expectation of that tradition. So they're just offering these meditation practices and things, and they do everything from beginning to whatever. And that really is what it comes down to, is really trying it. And I really have to say, I am really not trying to tout my horn, but once you do it, it's like a lot of times people say, I don't know if I'm doing it right. So finding someone who can help you feel like you're doing it right.
And there was a question from Christine Marie Trinidad, but she had to drop off. How can we advocate this, like what you're doing, more in our workforce? Like how would someone, like someone who's in a company or organization, bring you on board? Like how do we advocate for it?
Yeah, I think what the advocate is looking at where the stress points are in an organization and how looking at I don't necessarily just work within wellness programs. I'm not a lunch and learn program. I work with CEOs to help their ROI. So it's really bringing someone in, and there are quite a few organizations that do this now, but bring us in to help them to show their leaders that if in fact people learn a mindfulness practice and all these mental strategies, like you were seeing, I have 30 different modules of mindful strategies that I use within companies. And what's cool is the companies get to choose which ones they want. Which ones is it more about priorities and planning and all of that? Do I want to just do the self-compassion, creativity kind of stuff? They can choose. Resilience is a huge one in organizations. So if you want to bring it in and advocate, usually, sometimes there's people who actually meditate in organizations. You can start like a meditation club. So that's what some people have done. And to be honest, when I come into a company, I have what's called ambassadors. So I don't do this alone. There's always someone who's the ambassador in the company who then helps to continue the program long so it's more sustainable.
Awesome. Will, do you want to unmute and ask your question? I think and then that'll be our last question.
Sure. It's really cute. I'm just curious, Elizabeth, you mentioned something at the very beginning that you knew you needed to be here today, or you needed to do this with Lan. Could you speak to that a little bit? I'm curious what that actually meant.
Yeah, I think in that context, I meant to do this work in particular. And so what that happened in my retreat, where I just had this aha moment, because I knew I wanted to, what am I going to do with this? So you do a 3-year retreat. It's not like you can be in retreat your whole life. You're basically taking what you learn and bring it into the world, doing a PhD program or master's program or a bachelor's, it doesn't matter. But relative to this microlearning, I'll be honest, the way I remember it, and Lan, you can tell me if it's different, but I found Community of 7 and thought it was the coolest community. And then she reached out and said, oh my God, I love what you do. Bring it to us. So that's how I got here.
It's synergy, right?
This was synergy. Yeah.
I think I saw one of your posts and I reached out. I was like, hey, come speak.
Yeah.
Awesome. So guys, you know the deal. On the top right-hand side, put this in gallery mode. For those of you, because there's a lot more of you that have your camera on, turn on your cameras because Elizabeth deserves a round of applause. Thank you, everyone. And I sent you, you can see this video after because you're probably, I know I'm going to watch this over again. And in the comments, I will put the link to Elizabeth's LinkedIn, her website. And also you guys got a reminder email for those who are in the Zoom room prior to this call. So there's links to her company, also her LinkedIn, add her, support all of her content. Thank you so much again. Once again, another round of applause. Woohoo! Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. And so someone asked what the app was. So it's Headspace, I think. Anyway, and then UCLA Mindfulness, USC has one as well. So they're all over there. Yeah, there's lots.
Awesome. So you guys all have homework. Meditate, especially the ones that say you can't meditate, even if it's for 1 minute, and just add 2 minutes in the next week, but just do it. I think it's going to change your life. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Really appreciate you. Bye, everyone. Take care.